Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be talking about Volume 3 of Guardians of the Galaxy. And as always, I have here with me Red Rocket Raul and
Party.
and Ramon the Destroyer of Toilets.
I'll take it.
And as always, I'm your host, Lord Carlos V.
Hey, Carlos Quito, I get it.
Yeah, there you go. But guys, I'm super excited to talk about this movie. If you couldn't tell already, I can't wait because there's definitely a lot to talk about this. Don't ask us why there was a delay in having this conversation, but I'm happy that we're here. I'm hoping that a lot of people
Tell
actually.
me why.
I will not. You'll be telling us why. Rose, start the conversation off. Why? What did you think about this movie?
There was too many animals in it, and I'm kidding.
I knew it.
Considering how the MCU has been, it's probably like one of the best MCU movies in all of whatever phase they're in. Because, like, I'm a big fan of James Gunn, and like all the setup that he did in the other two movies, or like even like an Endgame and stuff like that, like especially with Rocket, like it's set up small enough that it doesn't affect those stories like in a bad way, because it's all with like small dialogues and small little things that super pays off in this movie, and it just I love the concept of it, and I love Rocket anyway.
Yeah.
So this one's definitely the most emotional of the Guardians movies.
Absolutely.
No, that's a good way. I definitely see some of the things that you are already bringing up into the conversation, but if I had to say, I would say keep an eye on that James Gunn director because I feel like he's gonna go big, man. I definitely see like that guy has a career ahead of him. But Ramon, tell us what you thought about this movie.
Well, I loved it. I'll preface this with that. Guardians of the Galaxy, at least talking movies, right? Because like we can't even deep dive into comics because there's just so many reiterations of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But as far as the movies, it is the one set of movies that I always recommend to people, right? Especially whenever I'm talking about the podcast or just casually talking about movies and TV, which obviously we do a whole lot. And people are like, "Oh, I don't like comic book movies, or I don't like action hero movies." I'm like, all right, watch Guardians, because Guardians is like nothing else that you've seen. It's not like Iron Man, it's not like Thor. Well, maybe Thor is a little bit like it at one point, like with Ragnarok. But other than that, there's like, nothing like it. It's a group of misfits that come together and they're funny and they're dumb and all that crazy stuff. Anyways, needless to say, this volume 3 was just like perfect in a sense of like, it's not even about like Guardians to save the galaxy. They're all just trying to save Rocket, who is my favorite Guardian, right? And then by the end, by saving Rocket, they save the universe or the galaxy again. So it was a pretty good movie. And like Raul said, it was definitely the most emotional by like till this day. And I kind of glad for being the last movie of the Guardians that it was as good as it was, because I feel like it's a good way of just kind of ending it and just, at least with this group, perfect.
Yeah, Ramon, I know you're like
and save the world.
I know you're like the one that doesn't really read the articles or like some of these stories, Ramon, but it's actually funny that James Gunn has said that, if you look at back, it has always been Rocket's story, and Rocket is actually his favorite character. So it's like one of those things that if you do a watch from like the first one or the second one to this one, it's like you can definitely still see that Rocket was kind of like his story, especially the second one. I think in the second one, it really goes a lot into details about his depression.
yeah.
He can't trust anybody. I actually like the second one a lot. I think it's very underrated compared to this trilogy, but this one definitely kind of like blew me away having to like do my rewatch. If I could take you back a little bit back to like 2012 when the first Guardians of the Galaxy got announced, dude, I remember the thing that got me the most excited was the fact that they were putting like Chris Pratt in this. And then the reason why is because I was a big Parks and Recreation guy. So the idea, and I just loved Andy. So the idea of Andy, coming in, working out, and all of a sudden being in Guardians of the Galaxy, like I was all for it. I didn't know that 15 years or 10 years later, like the whole discourse around Chris Pratt would go so negative. Hate him or love him, I think he does a great Star-Lord. And, I definitely think he did just a great job with this movie. I think it's the best I've seen him in these past couple of years. And it just tells you that he owns the fact that he's Star-Lord. And I like that a lot about him. And if you realize, he never wears the damn mask in this whole movie. And I only want to say that now because I don't want to forget.
Yeah.
He never wears the mask during this whole movie.
Yo, and it's funny because again, we were recording this way later after this movie came out, so we had plenty of time. And again, just because we weren't recording right away, I did deep dive into like all the freaking what's it called Easter eggs and a bunch of random articles, and that's probably one of the top
And other
ones that comes up.
reviews,
Yeah, that's one of the top ones that comes up where people are just like, why couldn't he put the freaking helmet on, especially in that last scene of his, which we'll talk about later. But I think even James Gunn said that as simple as he left it on the drawer back at the freaking the one place. So it's just, I don't know. It's just silly though. But this movie just has so many like good things to it, man. And it's like back to Raul before we deep dive into the movie more. Like I feel like when you were saying about in general like holding its own, especially through the whole series of like the freaking like the Thanos fight and all this like all the collection of the MCU movies, I think the Guardians of the Galaxy story within some of those are still some of the funnier, like the most heartwarming like parts of that whole thing. So I don't know, man. I'm just gonna keep crying every time that I think about the end of this. Cause,
Yeah.
Is your voice getting deeper? I don't know what you're talking
I don't
about.
know what you're talking about.
No, for me, hopefully anybody listening to this recording has seen the movie. I think the biggest shock was that nobody passed away during this movie because I think people were already kind of expecting that. And when I was doing my second rewatch with my wife, she kept saying like, "Oh my God, is Drax gonna die here? Oh my God, is Star-Lord gonna die? Oh my God, is Rocket?" So she just kept saying like, "Are people gonna die?"
Oh my God, Nebula, yeah.
Funny enough, nobody dies in this movie, but I think that was because Disney probably didn't let James Gunn kill any of them off just because of the fact that, if people don't know it, James Gunn's moving on to DC, so obviously they wanted to keep these characters in play in case they have a big storyline later on. And, I would say that was probably a smart decision, man, because I love all these people.
Yo, not even the High Evolutionary died, so it's like that fucking simple. Like, what the hell? Like, what they thinking? Like, again, we don't kill another villain. Stupid.
Dude, and honestly, I think that was a mistake with not killing off any characters at all, because so this is going to be the last iteration of the Guardians kind of as we know it. And then I can almost guarantee you there's not going to be another Dave Bautista playing Drax ever again in the MCU. And then there's probably some other characters that we're probably never ever going to see. But like one day, 10 years from now in the MCU, we're just going to know technically Drax is out there or Mantis or Nebula or whoever, even though they're never going to come back into the MCU, but they're just going to be out there for whatever reason.
You're underestimating the power of green, my friend. Money can make anybody talk, man. And I feel like you throw enough money down and it's impossible to say no to it.
I don't know. Let's put that into action, Raul. I got some money.
Let's go. No, yeah, but I don't know. Like it's bound to happen because especially how the MCU is now, like it's already too big for them to manage it as it is. That I think that they need to kind of recycle some things or get rid of some things in order to.
What I like about this movie was kind of like very focused on them, and I get what you're saying, and I want to say this conversation positive because obviously we go down that rabbit hole of like what they've been doing these past, especially with Secret Invasion that just happened. Like it's just we'll go on it, but I want to keep happy thoughts, man, because the movie right off the start with this whole like that creeper song, like dude, awesome start, and then the way it kind of finishes off with that song, Ramon. What was it? The one
beautiful.
It makes me so happy.
Dog days are over.
Yeah, it makes me feel like I'm at a wedding. It makes me feel like I want to dance. It's just like, dude, great intro and great ending to that movie. So it's just like, keep me at a happy spot, please, bro. I beg you.
Wait, I like how you say, let's get off the negative and let's go to the beginning. The beginning was this super depressing, man.
Depressing, yeah.
So depressing. What do you mean?
Like, because it sets the tone for the movie, and and that's the thing that James Gunn is always amazing, especially with his Guardians movies, is that like the music in its own is almost like its own character. Like I honestly I don't know anyone that can use music as well in their movies as James Gunn.
Yeah. No, yeah, like that first scene was beautiful because already you see Rocket being the first one. He's clearly dealing with like this whole kind of like internal struggle of like kind of unhappiness. And then I think what I love the most, which is even sadder, is that you also have Peter over here dealing with alcoholism because and I had to laugh at that and depression. But it's like, it's just, with the song Creep, and then just that whole idea of it's this very depressing tone, even though they are kind of rebuilding this new world, and clear the Guardians are taking a big step to like be like, the leaders of this place and kind of be that positive like team to rule that. You do have like the two main protagonists just kind of being like super down, super like just can't even like live with themselves at some like in one way or another. And then if
like,
it wasn't
they don't belong here.
It's like they don't belong here. And if it wasn't for like Peter being so into his bottle, like the whole thing with when Adam Warlock showed up, that would have never really happened, or at least they would have been able to fight him a little bit sooner. Yeah. But I mean, that beginning was beautiful because right away it puts you into the midst of the depression, the sadness, and then it goes from there to like violence, and Rocket is injured, and it's just, I don't know, man. It's like, yes, of course it's better than talking crap about the MCU and Disney, but it's still so freaking depressing, and here comes my tears.
And in the defense of Guardians of the Galaxy, I think what did kind of go wrong, some of the bigger issues with the movie aren't Guardian problems, they're Disney problems and MCU problems that they probably had to throw into the movie. But like, I don't know, like I love the movie and I love the series, and I love Rocket and most of these characters.
What did you guys think about this guy, Adam Warlock? What did you guys think about it? And before you answer, I want to say my 2 cents first.
Then don't ask.
No, you know what? All I wanted to say is that watching his fight early in the beginning kind of does make me excited for James Gunn directing Superman. Because if that was his like, hey, I can do a hell of a Superman job, like, dude, he did a great job because the way he comes in, the way he's beating up on the Guardians, that was freaking awesome. I really like that. With him, I don't like the fact, first of all, I don't like the fact that he's not played by Zac Efron. I think it was kind of a mistake. It was a huge mistake not to cast Zac Efron because that's who they were looking for, a Zac Efron type. And I don't mind this actor, but I really can only see Zac Efron playing him. And then just the fact that he was like dumb. He's a dumb, and I understand that.
But they explain it, yeah.
He's dumb now. The next time we see him, he's probably going to be like a normal person, and then eventually he'll become like a genius. I already can tell that's where this is going. But I feel like they just threw him because they had to throw him in there because they teased him at the end of the last Guardians of the movie. But what did you guys think of him?
Okay, our turn. No, I mean, it was the same thing, like, too, like, my biggest dissatisfaction with him, because of course I love him as an actor, but he's definitely, we just saw him in The Bear season 2. That's different. But to me, this actor's always been like kind of goofy, and not because he looks goofy, like good-looking man and everything, but it's like he's just a goofy personality. He always brings comedy to any character he's playing. And yes, they explained that the High Evolutionary kind of like pulled him out of his like cocoon like too quick, and that's why he's so immature. He's basically like a big grown baby. But I mean, I think that's the only problem with that, because throughout the movie, a lot of my issues are not him, but it's just that he is such a strong character in the comics. And then in this movie, he's just kind of a silly character in the background. And even later, towards the end of the movie, when I'm kind of like, dude, he should have been the one that should have killed the High Evolutionary, because he technically killed the mother. He doesn't even do anything about it. He ends up kind of just falling and then ultimately being saved by the Guardians. But it kind of sucks, because I wish he could have been more, especially for the character that he is. But again, they're treating him like just a baby. But
for now.
And I'll say I love the actor, like, and honestly, like, I fell in love with his acting watching Dope Sick on Hulu with Michael Keaton. I see the potential, so like, I know what the character can be. And I completely agree with you with the fact that, like, Adam Warlock's supposed to be like one of the most powerful characters that there is, and he's even like a huge part of the Infinity Saga. They just didn't include it in the MCU, but I see the potential, and I can see him being kind of like one of the headliners for the MCU. If they treat it right and they do it right. But I don't know. I just see a lot of problems with the MCU in general, but the movie awesome. I like them in the movie.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen Meet the Millers, that's also like the first time I ever think I put my eyes on him. So he was obviously like, that's a great story if you're kissing Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston, yeah.
But that whole scene of him making out with Jennifer Aniston and that other girl, it's just like cinema perfection. But yeah.
Well, we got one character out
What
of
a
the way.
big
That was
break.
that was one of my big. That's one of my big criticisms of this movie. So I'm glad we got that one out of the way because that was just
I liked him.
not as Adam Warlock. I mean, not. We just had this whole discussion, Ro. Like,
I'm just saying, I liked this Adam Warlock.
okay,
Mostly because I saw the potential, and he was kind of like a good change of tone.
No,
well,
I mean,
for a lot of it too.
Yeah, and he's really tall. And like, one thing about James Gunn, he says that he likes to surround himself with giants. So I think all these actors, they're like 6'2", 6'4". So that's another reason why he probably cast them is like, oh, you're tall and beautiful, so let me climb on you. I mean, let me hire you. I mean,
Here's my wife.
Be my wife.
Oh my god, how do you
And
feel
my
about
brother, who's in every movie?
How do you feel about
everything I do?
His brother, I don't mind, but how do you feel about his wife showing up in almost every single one of his like works now? It's kind of a little bit getting a little bit too much.
Irrelevant. Like a good-looking woman, but it's like it doesn't really bring anything like super crazy to the movie. And then by this point, you just kind of know who she is, so you're like, come on, like. But you know what I mean? This is James Gunn, though, right? Like half the people that are in this movie are in other ones of his movies, like Suicide Squad, crazy. Like he doubles up a lot of the actors, and so like it's expected of him.
Rooker.
So we can't be mad at him for having his wife in there too. He might as well just have like everybody he knows. Like,
because I would say pull up his filmography and tell me one movie from him that you haven't liked. And I know a lot of them are superhero, but it's like I feel like he has a great track record. So there's nothing that tells me I should doubt this man. I think his creativity is just on that level of what we want. And I think Suicide Squad might actually be my favorite movie of his, and I only say that because it's so violent and it's so freaking funny. So those two things combined just make perfection for me.
But since we're on the topic, I mean, Sean Gunn, like his brother, I think is one of the best things that happen to these movies because like not only is obviously he doesn't even have to be the brother, but just like based on him being a freaking great actor. But I also threw like, again, going back and looking at like Easter eggs and a bunch of the insider stuff for the movie. Like I didn't realize that he actually does play Rocket for the cast. Like he gets on his knees, he gets down, and he's the one acting out so that the actors have something to look at. And I'm like, dude, that's freaking awesome because I mean, he doesn't have to do that. Like you've seen in other movies, they'll use like puppets or something else or some like, freaking assistant in the background. And he's just so into it. And not to mention his role as Kraglin, like probably one of the better developed like characters in the Guardians of the Galaxy. And obviously by the end of the movie, you see him shine like pretty good. So, but I still think it's funny that he struggles with that arrow so much. Like when Adam Warlock shows up and he's like, all right, my time to shine. And he like gets this arrow. He's like, ready? And then he starts, the arrow smacks him sideways. Who threw
that thing?
Howard. I don't know. He calls him to like Howard or something like that.
Or that whole thing he had with the dog, like take it back.
Cosmo.
I'm not a bad.
Take it back.
I'm not a bad dog.
Bad dog.
That was one of the best things of the whole movie. Yeah,
dude, I love her projection too. Do you know who she is?
The actress, the voice actress.
Yeah.
No.
She's the girl that was in the Pratt movie as his daughter.
Oh, that's right. Huh. That's right. Yeah.
And obviously she did awesome there. But so she's been started to be cast in other things. But yeah, like I that's another one that I love, like how she's developed and kind of like the potential that I see there and just how I don't know. I think everyone in this movie is cast like almost perfectly. Like there's almost no changes I would do in any of the casting.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's that's
cool.
Yeah, because that's another crazy thing. He's able to bring some of these characters. Like I don't know how much we'll talk about Cosmo, but Cosmo's great. And then they have the duck all over again, and we don't even make a big deal out of him anymore. Like we see him.
I know.
They're playing cards, and it's just like he's part of the whole MCU. Howard the Duck. He's part of the MCU, so we don't even really focus too much on him. But it's just so crazy that he can do these things, and we don't even really focus on it because there's just a larger story happening.
Yeah, but not Cosmo. Cosmo. Yeah, Cosmo's like such a pivotal role in this one, though.
Yeah.
Like
especially,
Yeah, or how about the fact that like nobody even cares or brings up the fact that Sylvester Stallone is in this movie?
That's another one. Like,
it's whatever.
Yeah,
It's okay.
he's just like a character actor in this movie, and it's Sylvester Stallone,
I
I'll
know
stick to my
Miley.
like
yeah,
Oscar winning Sylvester Stallone.
I know
it's okay.
Miley Cyrus did the voice for the head robot that was floating around, the Ravager robot, but I guess in this movie she didn't come back. But
Yeah, she only did it on that end credit scene for the one thing. But no, I mean, Cosmo, like, again, that's another one that I don't want to like not talk about, because, like, again, obviously she's still a dog, but she's an awesome
Yeah.
telepathic dog, and she's such a good girl.
Because we love dogs.
Kinetic dog.
Ro was like, "You're a bad dog."
Yeah, I know, and I'm just like, dude, no. But I thought that was so funny because, like, dude, like, if you ever call your dog a bad dog, like, they even look at you like that, like, they're like, "Why do you hate me? Like, why do you hate me?" And I don't know, but again, I know we're always obviously jumping all over the place with this one, but it's just like, yeah, at the very end, man, it's her whole, like, his whole reaffirming her or saying, like, you are a good dog. It's what makes her stronger. And it's just like, I mean, she does, like, it's pretty impressive what she does. Not only when Mantis helps her out at one point, right? But like, she's able to bridge the freaking nowhere, like the freaking big old head, and then the ship, the freaking dude ship together so that everybody can escape. Like, that was a whole dog, man, and telekinesis. That's crazy. Like, who else did that the whole movie? No one. Like, so we don't need to talk about Cosmo anymore, but she's like such a good girl.
I don't know if we're gonna go like character by character, but the one surprisingly that I want to just right away highlight is I think Mantis, dude, she like has grown on me from a character that when I saw her design or I saw what she was possibly could do, I didn't think there could be much that this character could bring to the team. But dude, she was awesome throughout this whole movie. I like the way she's portrayed, especially if you haven't seen the new Mission Impossible Reckoning Part 1. She's awesome in that movie. So it's just like, if you're able to disconnect her from Mantis, it's kind of crazy, just a transformation. Because in both of these movies, these characters can be very deadly. Mantis is freaking awesome, though. I like everything that she did. The way she just manipulates your emotions or can tell people, like, hey, all of a sudden, like, you have a crush on this guy. So, like, you know, and she's like, Drax is like, I guess that's not the first time they do that. So it's kind of like, it just brought so much laughter to me.
And I think that's, it's so for you guys, for listeners or anyone else that doesn't know this, but maybe if you watched Guardians Volume 3, you didn't realize that her and Peter were like siblings. That happened on the special. That happened on the Christmas special that Disney released, which is, you know, it's nothing crazy, but it's really fun. And you know, they kidnap Kevin Bacon, they abduct him, and then in there too, Mantis ultimately does basically confess to Peter that they are siblings because of ego. And I don't know, it's great. Siblings. Like, they have siblings, but it's like one of those things too that I think for this, and for this movie it adds. I mean, like, if we haven't mentioned it enough, because I don't think we've actually like sat here enough and been like, one of the reasons why Guardians works so well is because it is that, like, they started as a group of misfits. And then they became a family, right? Not just because Vin Diesel's in it, but like they became a family. And the whole journey through all of it is just like them being stronger, getting closer together. And like you said, Carlos, like Mantis and freaking Drax at this point have like such a like fun connection, like the love, hate, insults, and kind of, you know, just all this stuff. It's just so good to kind of see that not only like by blood relation, but all these characters in general are like so close at this point. But I think with Mantis, it's just funny because every time like you look at her in the background, she's doing something goofy. She's the one that when they were in the spacesuits, she's kind of like running like a dog, like in the moon. Like they're like tumbling around. Like she, like, I don't know, she they kind of play her as a ditz, but you know she's super strong and you know, obviously really smart.
Wisdom. Yeah, she has a lot of wisdom.
I don't know.
Dude, and to contrast all of that, the one character I didn't like was stupid Gamora. I didn't like her. Like I didn't like what they did, and like how the character is now.
Well, it wasn't his decision though.
I know,
you know, but it kind of sucks. But you know, even though I don't disagree with you, I do understand both Star-Lord and her where they're coming from. Where she's like, hey, that was not me you fell for. And then the whole thing of like, here's Star-Lord seeing the woman he fell for, like technically a lot, but not really. So it's just that I wouldn't want to be in that situation at all.
Oh, no, I completely understand. But like, I don't know. I don't like, I don't know. I guess I just don't like this version of Gamora.
No.
You know who plays with that idea? You know who plays a lot with that idea, Ramon, that Ro wouldn't know? Rick and Morty. This whole idea that you can just move to another dimension and your new family members will be there, and you just kind of act like normal. And it's like, dude, no, like they're not your real family. It's crazy.
But see, My understanding was that they still have the same potential, right? But it's just because she's like a past different dimension version of herself, but it's still more of like because she's in the past of where she left off with the other one. Like, so I don't know, because even rewatching this movie, of course, Raul, like I completely agree. I think, and if anything, since I was just talking about like family and how they're like so close and everything, that's what sucked the most. She was a huge part of the first two movies, and that whole them falling in love was probably one of the best like parts about the first two, is that like the connection between Peter and Gamora, and then to kind of see that be completely gone in that last movie, it's kind of sucked. And even by the end of the movie, there was a little bit more understanding, right? Like I think when they're all doing that group hug, she's still kind of in the background, like smiling, but then she just walks away, and it's just like, it sucks. Like, you know, like the best that we got is that she finally got to understand Groot when he was talking to her. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just, yeah, they kind of almost like phased her out. And it sucks that she was so pivotal to Peter's development. But I don't know. Maybe this just means better things for Peter when they do more things with him in the future, you know?
Yeah. So I guess my main thing is, so like in Guardians 1, um, she kind of had the attitude and all that stuff, and that part's kind of normal still in this movie, but then she needed them, but she wasn't like that to Nebula. And then in this movie, she's still kind of like a dick to Nebula, and then she's so like adversarial to Quill, and yes, like she like repelled him, but she wasn't adversarial. She wasn't like, besides when she was trying to capture him. But then, like after when they were working together, like in this movie, when they were working together, she was still super like aggressive against him. Whereas in the first movie, she wasn't. So I don't know. It just I feel like it should follow the same path, but it's not.
Okay, so this is where, like, you know, I'm gonna bring something really into this. It's not, doesn't have to do with Guardians, but there's a movie with Channing Tatum and I think Rachel Adams where she loses her memory and they were married, and he has to like make her fall in love with him again. But it's very hard for her because at this point she understands that she was married to this man, but can't fall in love because everybody keeps telling her like, this is your husband, you gotta love him, you gotta love him. So I think it's the same thing, man. The fact that people keep telling Gamora like you and him were a thing, that it makes it very hard for her to like consider like a reality. So she keeps rejecting it. I did see hints throughout the movie that she kept kind of seeing things about him that she could believe why she fell in love with him, like the fact that how she was tricking that one girl, and then all these action scenes and all these moves he was putting, like jumping out of the ship and then setting the self-destruct. And it's like she kept being impressed by him, that I do believe she was like, fuck, like this is why I fell in love with this man.
He should have taken a freaking page from freaking Adam Sandler and 50 First Dates. Make a videotape. That's always gonna work for you, buddy. No, but yeah, like I do think it's funny that Peter was always like, did that look cool? Did I look cool doing that? And I think part of that too is just like that he's always still kind of trying to impress not only everybody, but like, you know, Gamora in there. And yeah, like even Gamora does ask him at one point towards the end, right? It's like, well, tell me, like, were we good together or something like that, right? Along the lines of like, you know, how were we together? And he's like, we were awesome, like, you know, like, or we were like amazing or something to that level. So yeah, you could totally tell that if you put them in another movie together, they probably would have fallen in love again. But yeah, it kind of does suck, at least for everybody else being pretty close and having an extra thing to their bonding, and then she's the only one that's still kind of on the side. But she does have her family though, like the Ravagers. That's her new family at this point, so good for her.
Dude, with Nebula, I always find it super hard to disconnect Nebula from the real actor, because if you see like the Jumanji, the new movies, it's just like, I don't know, man. Like she does such an amazing job.
She's so different though.
She's so good, dude. She's so freaking good as Nebula, and like I just can't. Like I cannot imagine this person playing Nebula. But I think Nebula has some of the best arc in the whole series too, from being like straight up bad guy in the first one to the second one becoming one of the good guys, and then in this one she's almost like the new, she becomes some, well, she doesn't become the new leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy, but yeah, she's a caretaker of the whole community. So I just think it's awesome. I will say the worst line in this movie is the line when, you know, she's seeing some of the things that were being done to Rocket, and she's like, oh, that's even worse than what Thanos did to me. And I'm like, dude, that is complete BS. They should have dropped that. Thanos literally took every body part from you and replaced it. Like, there's no way that suffering it's worse than you suffering for like 20 years of this bad guy doing all these terrible things, and all of those things were being done on her because she kept losing to Gamora. So I don't like that line. I think that line should be dropped from that movie completely, and they would make the movie a lot better because I just hate hearing that line.
I mean, there was that very graphic.
Yeah, because it's kind of minimizing her trauma part of it too, because she's obviously traumatized by what her dad did, because it's years and years and years and decades of this trauma of like constantly losing to Gamora, and then constantly like not being good enough, and then constantly like painfully having your body parts replaced until you're like cybernetic and have all these different things. And then, like, at the end of it, kind of, like, killing him off and all that stuff, and then trying to, like, formulate this family or whatever. But then, like, yes, what Rocket went through is messed up and it's traumatic in its own right. But that doesn't mean that what she went through isn't as traumatic or possibly more traumatic. And her saying in it, like, I completely agree with you that she's kind of minimizing her trauma that she went through. And I don't think that she should.
No, yeah,
I don't think somebody in that situation would.
No, one for sure. She definitely stepped it up with being like the caretaker. Because even from the first scene to like almost the very end, when she decides to stay in nowhere and just basically, bring everyone or be the refuge holder for everybody and kind of help the kids and everyone else. But yeah, like even just going back to that scene where like Thanos had her like in pieces. Remember, like she was like, I don't even know what movie that was. Like, damn,
Endgame,
like yeah. I mean, I'll have to rewatch them all again. But yes, I mean, even just that scene by itself is very like so much more intense than what happened to Rocket, which I'm sure some of you guys are probably upset that we haven't even talked about the Rocket story because we're trying to avoid we don't want to talk about it.
I'm sure we're gonna spend a good amount of time talking about it.
Because if we're there, man, like take it away. But I just want to say, like Bradley Cooper, this should be one of his highest performance that people should talk about, and I don't think anybody talks about it. Sadly, I don't think people associate Bradley Cooper with this role, and it's dude, he does an amazing job. Like it's just like he brings so much to it. I remember at the time, I think even Jim Carrey was being considered for the voice of Rocket. Thank God it went to Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper, seriously, I have liked that actor ever since like Nip Tuck, going all the way back to like early 2000s.
He was in Nip Tuck?
Yeah, he was in Nip Tuck, and
I don't remember.
Yeah, but he's a great character. But Ramon, if you want to start that conversation with Rocket,
I mean, this is why I love this movie. But no, I mean, like going back to where we started, like almost in the very beginning, like after the Adam Warlock attack, then right away, obviously when Rocket gets injured, you start seeing these flashbacks, right? And then this is the first time in the all the Guardians of the Galaxy movie that we finally get a glimpse of what he's always talking about and he's always struggling with, right? Because in every movie he talks about this like. He's on denial of him being a raccoon, number one. Like he says he doesn't think he's a raccoon. And number two, he always talks about this trauma and things that he just won't, like, I guess, open up about. And you finally just go straight back to those flashbacks that just right away hurt. And probably one of the reasons why this movie is criticized by a lot of people. But to be honest, like it works and it does such a good job for it, right? It puts him back with the freaking, oh my God, the High Evolutionary. As a little raccoon, it's a little baby raccoon, and clearly the High Evolutionary has this purpose to play with these species and make them into higher like intelligence species of like animals, and he's trying to go for perfection. And at one point we find out he's actually trying to replicate Earth because he fell in love with Earth one time he was down there. So not only does he have a lot of these animals from Earth, but then he ultimately makes Counter Earth, which is just a copy. And you see the sad story of like Rocket is a little like pup or whatever you call little baby raccoons, and right away he's experimented on. You meet his friends, and I don't know, it's just one of the saddest stories because what's going to happen, right? Like with all these things about like labs and testing facilities for these animals and animal experimentation, like where it's going, and it is probably cringeworthy for half the people and probably a trigger for a lot of people, but it's like that's Rocket's story and you can't take it away. I loved it. I mean, I loved a lot of it. It's really sad. I think my favorite part about that story is seeing him grow with his friends because you needed that connection, right? You really needed him to be attached to something for him to then become so vengeful, I guess. I'm not vengeful. I guess he's angry a lot of the time. Like he's Rocket Raccoon for a reason. He's always trying to like make things to kill things or make things to blow things up. And Well, I mean, maybe not kill things because he's beyond that because he's a guardian. But I don't know. I love that story. Obviously, it goes to shit with the High Evolutionary, realizes that he's way smarter than he is, kind of in a sense, or like he's able to like think in ways that none of his other creations do. And I mean,
dude.
I don't know.
Yeah, and the other thing too with the fact that he never like he always fights back against people calling him raccoon because in that first flashback he also brings up like when he goes into the cage, I think he asks like what is he or something like that because he doesn't know like what he is. And then like the other animals show up kind of like with the like mechanical appendages and stuff like that. And they're like they're his first friends or whatever, but like he also kind of has this identity crisis because he doesn't know who he is. He because he wasn't really like born and grew up anything like that. He was kind of like made in a way. So he's not really a raccoon because he was a creation of the High Evolutionary, and he's kind of like stuck in the place where he has no identity. He doesn't know who he is. He has all this trauma, and I think he forgot a lot of it too.
Yeah.
And he just kind of fights back against being attached to people because he was so hurt by what happened to his friends too, that it's one of those things that like once you feel that kind of loss, like you never want to feel it again. So he doesn't want to get attached to people again.
No,
That's why he's just been group forever.
I think that part where he did find out what kind of species he was truly funny because it's like the whole idea like you've been fighting for this argument and then you find out all along you've been wrong and you're like fudge, like I've been wrong this whole time. so I did think it was kind of funny.
Luckily they say that till the end of the movie because it wasn't until the very end that he's like, what?
And the only thing I kind of wanted to say is like again I wouldn't change anything about the story because I think the movie is very well done. But I think it would have been cool if we had found out that maybe, let's say the bunny, because I think the bunny was like the most creepy looking one of all the animals. Like if we had found out that the bunny really didn't like die or pass away. And then here we are, Rocket Raccoon, like 10, 15 years later. And now you find out that this bunny has kind of been turned against him because of this whole idea that he left them behind. So I thought that would have been kind of cool to see that. But again, I don't want it. I love what we got. So I'm not, but I just like this whole rabbit left kind of like an impact. I mean, the reason why I say that is because I was watching this movie with my wife the second time, and she's like, "You took my daughter to go see this," and dude, I swear, like, if we ever get separated, she's gonna use that as an argument against the divorce. The idea that I took her because my daughter's only 4, so the idea of her seeing these animals crying and suffering, and then my daughter, when she saw this movie on Disney Plus, she right away told my wife, like, that movie's scary. So it's like, oh my God, what did I do to her?
Yo,
I took my son to see it too.
We're both gonna lose custody rows.
No, that's not any scarier. It reminded me a lot of like Toy Story. Like Toy Story had a lot of those elements of like the creepy, forgotten toys that nobody wanted to play with. Like you even had the doll head with the freaking like connects, like legs and stuff like that. But even in later Toy Stories too, you have like a darker side of these like cute like toys. And I don't know, to me, like that's what I'm saying. Like, of course, if you bring real animals into this, it could be very traumatizing to some people. But I don't know.
Or maybe it's making it seem that like just because someone is a little different, doesn't mean that they're bad.
Yeah, I think and I think PETA was actually applauding this movie for the message it was trying to send.
Yeah.
Even though I do agree that there are some of the other creatures that look more horrible and they're more soldier space, that they were also kind of technically should have deserved some like they didn't deserve to be kind of like the way they did, but I guess you got to pick your poison, right?
Like
but it's like, hell yeah, I know, Rocksteady and Bebop, they do remind me of Rocksteady and Bebop. No, but it's like, how many times in movies do we freaking have human on human violence, but like then we have a little bit of animal cruelty, and it's like so like horrific. Like we don't complain when we're having like scenes.
It's only a little bit of animal cruelty,
right? Yeah. But when there's like people cruelty, like cruelty, no one cares. But no, I mean that story. I mean, just overall, dude, that story made me sad. They love the scene. No, not love the scene. I hated the scene when the freaking High Evolutionary finally came back, and he basically is trying to kill Rocket at that point, and then his guards end up killing his friends. But that's when Rocket snaps, and then when he technically becomes the Rocket we know, because yes, number one, he goes and freaking he goes and scratches his freaking face off, and later we find out that's why the High Evolutionary has that weird like pulled stretch
artificial
back
face,
like
yeah.
mask on.
That RoboCop mask.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
RoboCop mask. But then you see his first like interaction with the gun, right? And like that was so cool because this Rocket, come on, this Rocket Raccoon, man, he's known for like making these crazy weapons and these like crazy things that he's always shooting. And I mean, that's the best part about him. Like one of the reasons why he's my favorite in the comics is just because he's such a little force to be reckoned with such big weapons. And yeah, you see a little glimpse of that. Like he just kind of lost it, and obviously he wasn't happy. And damn, yeah, I don't know, but those flashbacks being kind of sandwiched in this story made me really sad. I did hate that it was like an hour and a half before we actually got the real Rocket back again, because that's who I went to see again, being my favorite like character. And yeah, I think it was until the last hour that Rocket finally gets brought back through, you know, all these other things we haven't even talked about.
No, dude, I really enjoyed some of the staging for this because it's like we just saw Ant-Man and I think we were kind of positive on it, maybe a little bit too positive, even though I do feel like I did enjoy
more positive than I was.
But I do like the fact that a lot of the stages, like nowhere, that was actually like a stage production, like it was built like a real set. Then you have that one world that they visit where it's technically it's like a living organism. Like I really love that. Like
and
super creative.
Face,
super creative, like super creative. This is why again I think James Gunn has like a, you know, he's gonna do good things with the DC universe. And then I also enjoy Counter, like it's just like, dude, I love that whole idea that even though you're watching this space movie and you know they could have easily done like the whole green screen, the whole thing, it's just like so many sets, man. I think that's one of the things that I really even more love about this movie, that it's just like nothing about it feels cheap. It feels expensive, and I like that, you know, like in a world where we're paying $22 for a ticket, it's like, yeah, this movie feels like you can see every dollar on screen, and I like that a lot.
Damn, what movie theater are you going to? $22 a ticket.
AMC, man.
Even IMAX is like $17. No, but like, how'd you guys like the Counter Earth? The Counter Earth was freaking cool.
I like the fact that we're selling drugs, and I was like, wait, what?
No. Well, that was a funny scene because this is, and again, if you guys are kind of following through our randomness with the story, but at this point they're obviously trying to figure out the code to kind of be able to help Rocket so they can bring him back to life or help save him. But it's like they end up at Counter Earth, and I thought it was like the funniest thing in that first interaction when they get off the ship, and then the little girl throws the ball at Drax, and Drax just freaking jolts it at
Oh my god, I felt that.
Sorry guys, I can't record this podcast too well because I just keep laughing and crying a little bit.
No,
I know.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, go ahead, Ro.
No, and to backtrack like a tiny bit, with Rocket, I'm glad that they sprinkled in these flashbacks, because if they had like a full straight like 45 minutes of all this like background, like all this depression, it would have hit so much. It would have just been like a depression fest and a cry fest for everyone that want to see it. But like, I feel like they had to sprinkle in like more of the what's currently happening with some of that humor in between like all the depression of his flashbacks. But yeah, and with the Counter Earth, like it's I love the fact that they show that like perfection is not something that you're ever going to actually achieve. Like no matter how hard you try, nothing's ever going to be perfect. Whether it's the gold people or whether it's these animal demi-human type people, like there's always going to be problems. And he keeps trying to like build these perfect creatures, and even like failing and getting Ninja Turtles. So like it's I don't know. I kind of like the message saying that like don't worry about being perfect because nothing's ever going to be perfect.
Bro, you mentioned it, but I did think that the gold people, to me, they seem like the most perfection he ever got. So this whole idea that he's looking for perfection, but if you ask me, your golden people are your perfection. So this whole idea that they were even treated like, no, you guys are dumb and I don't want you, and you know I can kill you if I want to. Like I didn't like that about it, but
I think that's what he said about them. He didn't he say something about like they were just like too full of themselves, or like they're just like too arrogant.
Yeah, they became too arrogant. Because when he built them, when he built them, like he was trying to make them like aesthetically pleasing and like aesthetically perfect. but then they became like obsessed that they didn't even do their own like work of any kind.
Yeah, so I think you're right, Ro. Like that guy was just never gonna be. There was never gonna be something
Satisfied.
like we have a friend that's never gonna get married because he just will always find a reason to find an excuse why this woman's not the one. So it's kind of like that. The high evolutionary is just he's always gonna find a reason why this species or this new creation. Even Rocket, even though Rocket was technically his most perfect creation, he couldn't see that because of the way he looked. Technically, that's the reason why he rejected him. Um, I did like the part where they were finally going to confront them, and everybody's saying Star-Lord's a trap, and he's like, "No, it's a standoff because I know it's a trap." So it's
The
like
face off.
face off. So dude, that had to be one of the most funniest, like best action scenes. The whole like him jumping to without a plan. Oh my god, bravo, Chris Pratt, bravo.
One of the best looking scenes though is remember how like Peter gives Groot the guns and he's like, here, you know what to do with
You know what to
these.
do with
And
them.
then once they're in there, like, dude, that's an awesome like face off.
Yeah.
Because they were like back to back. Groot's like all the arms, all the guns, and they're just like, I'm waiting for like a nice little statue figure of that because that would be beautiful with Groot and all the arms like sticking out. And
Yeah.
man, Groot's someone we haven't talked about because like I know he doesn't say much in terms of all that, but like, given that this is like not the same Groot that we first started watching the first movie, like it's in his like technically his son, or like it's because it's not, it's like his son or something a little different. But it's like this Groot, I like him now. Like he's getting like he's not a baby Groot, he's not incompetent or too cute. Like, he's actually doing stuff, and not only that, like
He's young adult Groot.
young adult Groot, and then he's like beefy, like he gunslings, he freaking grows wings so he could glide down.
Where he goes kaiju mode.
Oh yeah, kaiju mode. They're like kaiju. I don't know. I think that's another like element of this movie. Like again, especially knowing that it's not the first Groot, there's just still that relationship that he has with everybody, and he's just like, I don't know. He's so good and he's so pleasing to watch. And not to mention that whole thing that they did throughout the movie where like Gamora doesn't understand him and she's like, how can you understand him? And then at the end she finally understands him, and then at the very end of the movie we understand him. And I don't know like if everyone who like is listening to this or every viewer like finally like eventually caught that he was more so like James Gunn was trying to tell us that we now finally understand Groot because we spent enough time with him. We're family, and it's just like, man, it's just that's another character that you just gotta love because without him, you just don't have these movies.
Which I would love if going forward, Vin Diesel just straight up like actually did said sentences and words like, "I'm done with the I am Groot." Like just have him like speak like sentences. Pay that man more money, man. That's what I'm saying.
Still, my favorite Groot moment, like I just have to say, in all of the series is when I think in the second one, when they're in Ego and then Rocket built the bomb, he's like, "I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot." No,
baby Groot shouldn't even count because it's just too adorable. It's like ultimate. No matter what, like baby Groot's always gonna be at the very top. But yeah, don't count.
Yo, but by comparison, you remember that scene when he's baby Groot and he has the whole big thumb in his hands? Like that's how small he was. He was like this. If you could see it, like this big, like he was holding a thumb and he was just like,
"No, where did you get that thumb?"
I don't know. The scene where he's in the spaceship and he's playing the video games and Peter tells him something, he's like, "I am Groot," and they're like, "Whoa, what's your whoa?"
Yeah. Well, even in this movie, he says a sentence that if you go back to like and watch the Honest trailer, which we had an episode with Lon Harris from Honest Trailers. If you guys want to hear it, if you hear the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 Honest trailer, like it's pretty funny. They make a joke that early on he says something, and it's like, yeah, he definitely like said like give him something sexual or something. Like it was just kind of funny in the beginning.
Like in the beginning of the movie, he says something about like to Mantis, like why don't you touch him and make him feel good?
I am Groot.
And then Drax, like, no, not like that.
Oh man,
oh my God,
I don't know. Well, I mean, I don't know. And then he looks super awesome as like the King Groot or Alpha Groot, whatever he is at the very end, and the little thing. He's like super beefy, big old crown, like. Anyways, but I don't know, man.
I mean,
It's just an awesome movie overall.
Yeah, I mean,
With some issues, but it's not Gunn's fault. It's not the cast's fault. It's mostly
nah.
Disney's fault.
Well, we
yeah.
didn't talk about a lot. Like, what did you guys like about what was it called? The orgoscope, the big old fleshy planet or world where they went to get the
Oh, that
code.
was cool.
Like,
Yeah, that's what I was
had
saying. Like
some really cool
that
elements.
set was really cool.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
like the
Nathan
whole
Fillion.
Nate. Yeah, he's awesome, dude. He's also one of his like recurring actors. He already cast him as one of the Green Lanterns in the new
Oh
DC
yeah.
universe. Yeah,
Which one? Guy Gardner.
probably the oldest one. One of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I like their little fleshy suits.
I think the oldest one's Hal Jordan, isn't he? Isn't he the first human Green Lantern?
I don't have my facts in front of me, but I know he's been cast.
Raul's the DC guy. Raul knows his DC.
Ever since Raul got out of X, he doesn't know anything anymore.
I don't know. I'm on Threads though.
I'm on Threads too. Come find me, please.
I don't even know what my Threads name is.
It's like a number. It's like mine's like 55. It's like almost like Groot. I mean, like this whole Rocket Raccoon is like I have a number on Threads.
Other parts still worth mentioning, that fight in the tunnel.
Super
That
cool.
was like super cool fight.
I should actually be looking that up on YouTube in 4K because that is like a really, really amazing, wonderful. Because I could see people being like, oh, the Guardians, they don't really fight or do anything cool. And this idea, like how they were fighting, though, like it was freaking awesome,
dude. And also like another part. Unless you're gonna talk about this part, Ramon, because I know you're gonna say something.
I was going to mention Gamora and her sword was pretty cool. I really like that scene where she's like slicing and dicing. Yeah. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, but like, the other part that hurt me in the inside, especially as a dad, is Drax with those kids.
Yeah,
and just the fact that he was awesome with it. Like as a dad, that like I felt that to my core. I was like, poor Drax. Like, I don't know. I just felt so much for him.
I like the part where like Mantis pretty much had a conversation with Nebula and they're like thinking like they're pretty much saying like we consider you a dummy, and then she erases it. I'm like, oh, thank God, because that would have made me feel bad had he still like kept that information.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this about like Dave Bautista being another one of those big jolly giants that he's been so good with kids lately, and he actually does a really good job because like. Man, even in that M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Knock at the Cabin, he was a second grade teacher, and so it's like, yes, he wasn't interacting with kids, but he was just like a sweetheart. And for him being like that huge and intimidating, and this one being like the freaking
like Blade Runner 2049, he's like this giant like robot android, and he's very like soft-spoken, and he just wants to live. Like let those androids live, guys. Ryan Gosling,
he's killing all the androids in this movie too.
Do you know what movie they should remake with Bautista?
Which one?
Kindergarten Cop.
Oh, absolutely.
Where's my check? All right, where's my check?
Can I write it for like $10? That's all I have on my account right now.
If people haven't seen that movie, because I know some of you guys, younger generation, it's a really funny movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which Kindergarten Cop. I should rewatch it with my wife, actually.
And don't do it with John Cena. I like John Cena, but Dave Bautista is just so much like.
Yeah, he's better. He kind of has like the more like emotional part of the parental thing. John Cena's more of the goofy part, and he's more of the like emotional part.
Guys, by any chance, did you guys? I know in the beginning we talked about like how nobody dies, but I really felt like this was it for Star-Lord, and it's kind of funny that. I think in all three movies, he's always put in a position where like space is the one that's almost gonna like be the end of him. And like in this one, I really thought it was it. Like I know if you look at the scene, like it is a very like seconds, not even seconds, probably like even smaller than seconds, which gives you like the whole like he was able to be saved because technically he wasn't like in space for like 15 seconds. It was probably like 5 seconds, and then Adam Warlock came and pushed him. But I really thought he was gone, man. Like I was ready to like start crying for him and like almost applaud the movie. But I'm not upset that he didn't pass away. But I did think that was to me like a very highlight of the movie where we almost got the reveal that he could have passed away.
I don't know. Well, you know how at the end of the movie they're like, "Oh, like the Star Lord will return,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it's like I think that's I had read something about like James Gunn is even interested in this, but like that story that they want to do with him is more about him like assimilating on Earth. So it's like Star Lord as we know it is going to be a little different if we do get him later on. But I feel like yes, like for him leaving like the group, it should have been something like you said, more tragic, him dying, like I don't know,
Somebody
because like
dying.
because
Rocket
not well, like
dying.
even
Drax
just the fact,
dying.
even just
Somebody
the fact that
dying.
the high
His sister dying.
executioner,
I don't care.
dude, the high executioner did not die. Like I get it, Rocket to not kill him was great, right? Like that whole decision for Rocket was just way better than that. Like he, that was also such a great like scene because Rocket says, no matter what you did to my friends, no matter what you did to me, no matter how crazy you are, like you don't deserve dying, at least in this moment. I still thought that like Adam Warlock should have killed him because like
Yeah.
freaking the High Evolutionary killed his mother, and I don't think they ever addressed that. Like I would have been so pissed because that's the only reason why he lost his mother was because of the High Evolutionary. But instead, no, like he didn't die. And again, if it's still questionable, I think James Gunn also confirmed that he is alive because they did walk out with him like in that scene where all the animals and everyone's like jumping to nowhere. But anyways, yes, bro.
do you know the one scene that I think would have worked like really well and it would have had like a big like punch or like impact into the movie is if they would have had like or even kind of like a post credit scene or like I don't know like a deleted scene somewhere. It better be a deleted scene somewhere of having Adam Warlock being breastfed by his mother.
Oh, whoa,
Like, not show the whole thing, but just like
slow down, Homelander.
no, because I don't know. I feel like it would fit these characters very well, and it's kind of like a little bit of a shocker type of thing. I don't know.
But is it like necessary or more of a Raul like kink?
Fetish?
Like,
Oh
that
my
fetish?
No,
I don't think I need that scene.
I think it would have worked well in this movie.
I mean, yes, but do we need it? No,
Oh,
we do not need
God.
Just putting it out there.
Am I into it? Maybe, but like, do we need it? Now I kind of do. Raul, get on it.
I'll send you a cut from this website, Pornhub.
I don't mean them. They actually showing anything, but just like gesture at it or put it in an angle that you can't see it. But it's implied that he's breastfeeding or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just think it fits because he's like a kid, but like an adult kid.
I'm gonna destroy my check I gave you for kindergarten right now.
Oh wait. I do remember we were talking about kids. That's another thing, another criticism of mine. And I wanted to get this out because we need more criticisms for this movie, right? I wasn't appreciating that Disney was throwing kids a lot into these movies. Like in the last Thor movie too, they had all that scene where the freaking kids giving Thor powers and they're all fighting, and it just kind of diminishes the whole thing. Like I get it. But at the same time, we already have the freaking animals struggling. I mean, not struggling, the animals suffering, right? So why do we need kids suffering? Like, do we need both? Like, isn't that like a little bit of overkill? Like,
I think one of the girls, which is kind of funny in Thor, the Thor movie, his daughter, Chris Hemsworth's daughter, I think was Love. And then in this movie, one of the girls, I think it's also like one of the main actress's daughter. I don't know if it's Nebula or Mantis, but that little girl is somebody's daughter. So it's kind of funny. It's like, dude, stop putting like your kids in these movies. Like, stop doing that.
In Endgame, the kids that asked for Hulk's autograph were one of the Russo brothers is like niece and nephew or kids or something like that too.
Yeah. See, it's just a thing that's like I don't think I guess maybe it's just Disney's influence, but it's like we don't need that to like sell tickets. Like we don't need that to like make us like these movies. Like we already have enough. And yeah, I get it. Absolutely, like save the children. That's not the point. The point is just like I think I keep thinking of that last scene where they're all escaping into nowhere, and not only do you have the Jumanji scene but at the end, but it's like this is the whole idea of you're saving everybody. You're saving the kids. You're saving the bad guys who were working for the High Executioner. You're saving the High Executioner already. The High Evolutionary. You're saving him already too. Like it's like I don't know. It seems like a super happy-go-lucky, happy ending for everybody. Nobody's dead. All right, go us.
Well, you made me think of like Thor Ragnarok. Thor 4, even though I'm the one that brought it up, dude. And I don't know if I'm ever gonna forgive Taika Waititi for freaking not doing more with Christian Bale. Like
Christian
it's still,
Bale.
so it's like just thank God this movie is making this whole Marvel thing work. Because if it wasn't for this movie, they're like, yeah, like I'm just like you guys. I think Disney right now is really trying to figure out like, let's have an Avengers Secret Wars. Let's bring everybody. Let's make all this money and let's just blow it up. Blow it up. Bring the X-Men. Start all over again. New Iron Man. New this, because it's not working, man. Some of these ideas, some of these characters that they're introducing, I got a feeling the Miss Marvel new movies not gonna do well, but I could be wrong on that.
The
But
Marvels.
they're already saying that they're giving all the IMAX screens to Dune Part 2. So it's just like I feel like that movie is gonna be the one that's gonna really make them think like, okay, we need to just like move this thing ahead and start all over.
I just don't get why there can't be a sector of Disney that can do like harder topics and like more serious content that's not like always catered for families. Because I'm not saying superheroes shouldn't be for everybody. They should, because we grew into superheroes when we were kids, right? But also my superheroes growing up were still the same dark, crazy ones that were in the comics, because that's where I got my content, was from comics, comic book cards, like animated series that even then still had a lot of violence. And again, doesn't have to be violent, but this is the whole idea of that we don't have to cater to a family the whole time. And the only reason why I say that is because, like, yeah, there's such things as making these great movies, but then you throw these elements and you're like, but was that necessary? No, we're just trying to make extra money. And it just sucks. That was just another little baby criticism of mine.
Why not like Deadpool 3 is going to be their first like R-rated, technically still under the Disney, but maybe they could be pushing it under still Fox. I don't know what part of Fox they can still push, but I know that's going to be like the one that maybe they'll be like, oh yeah, we should be making more of these like R-rated if it's going to make $1 billion every time, man, because yeah, like, if you go to another parts of the world, like Disney Plus is where you go see your Predator movie. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's just America that for some reason they're like protecting us. Like, stop protecting us. We're the ones that everybody's so pro-gun and violence. Like, dude, stop.
We're the
doing that.
sadistic, hateful.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah. I don't know.
We watch The Boys. We watch Invincible.
Yeah,
we watch all these adult themed superhero things. So
yeah, but
no, go ahead. Well, I was gonna say one of my last questions, because I know we're getting towards the end of this. What do you guys think of the end credit scene of the new Guardians? Because that was fun. Which it's funny in a movie that we're talking about, like, kind of the shame of like animal cruelty. We go to killing more animals when they're killing all those like rabbits or whatever they are that come to attack.
Yeah, and they even said like technically we gotta do it to save the people,
but it's funny because I did not know what was going on. All the people in the background, like the villagers, are crying and freaking out and stressing out, and they just are just having a conversation about music and what's their favorite song. And
I guess I would have liked it if like Groot and Rocket Raccoon had just gotten off on their own, almost like in the beginning when we found them. It was just them two. This whole new Guardians, like I hope that kind of breaks up and. When we do see them, like something happen and they're no longer together, because I don't love it. I gotta say, I just don't really love it.
It's a weird combination.
It's gonna be hard for anybody to follow up James Gunn and do well with it.
Well, I hope they don't do anything with Guardians right away. Like they could leave Guardians alone and not touch it. Just leave it as is. Maybe a few 10 years down the line, they can make something different. But I don't know.
Yeah, they could probably include like a character or two or sporadically in the rest of the MCU.
I do want to say, like, at not the end credit scene, but the last scene where they play that song, I do, every time that I watch it, it makes me really like emotional and makes me want to cry. I don't know why, but
the dog days are over.
Like just because it's like they're all dancing. It's just such a happy moment that it makes me feel like I'm there, like I'm in the background and I'm also dancing. So like if I had to say my last comments, it would be like I felt like when I'm watching it, I'm one of those background actors just having a blast and laughing and I'm celebrating
and Drax, who was always talking crap about not being a dancer, and there's the two type of people: those who dance and those who don't dance.
Yeah,
and his wife, she wouldn't even tap a toe.
Yeah, that's so true. She wouldn't even have a toe. Which is what made him love her. Oh God. Well, that's it, man. I can't get better than that, Raul.
I can't talk to you more.
Well, I'll talk to you guys. I'll talk to you later. Have a good night. Hope everybody's still listening. Bye.